Hello, we're having a simply marvelous time this week by doing a book review of Breakfast at Tiffany's, written by Truman Capote. Let's start with the summary of the book. This book is written in first-person narration of an unnamed narrator, and it begins with him having a drink in a bar where between him and Joe Bell, the bartender, he learns about an old friend, Holly Golightly, is traveling in Africa and she has caused quite the stir. Now, hearing about Holly, this triggers a flashback to the narrator of a time when he first met her and the relationship that he built with her over the course of many months. The relationship between Holly and the narrator began when she was fleeing a date that she did not want to be with, and she found safety in the narrator. She half drunkenly called him Fred because that's the name of her brother, and their relationship started to build from there. After a few date nights and sharing between their personal lives, such as the narrator sharing with Holly that he is a writer and he has aspirations to be a successful writer for a magazine, she also shares with him that for her, her aspirations are enjoy life, be famous, but don't have an ego, which is where the first part of irony starts to set in about Holly Golightly's character, which we'll talk about more in a minute. Eventually, the narrator and Holly exchange gifts between each other. Holly buys the narrator a bird cage, a silver bird cage, because he pointed it out to her one time saying how nice it was. Whereas, because of Holly's obsession with Tiffany's and how it chases away the mean reds, he bought her a special medallion from Tiffany's. Specifically, it was a St. Christopher medal. And for those non-Catholics out there, St. Christopher is the patron saint of travel, which again is a theme that is important for the novel, and we'll talk about it in just a minute. After the narrator and Holly exchange gifts, she giving him the bird cage, he giving her the St. Christopher medal, the narrator notices an old man snooping around the apartment that Holly lives in, and eventually he speaks with him, and he discovers that this man's name is Doc Golightly, the husband of Holly. The husband of Holly, Doc, has come to New York City to find her and try to bring her back to the farm. Unfortunately, she declines. He wishes her well, and he goes on his way. Holly and the narrator continue to date for a few more months, but they eventually have a falling out when she insults his writing and he insults her lifestyle. After the narrator and Holly break up, Holly tries to become more domesticated and more of a housewife as she's engaged to a rich Argentinian businessman. Unfortunately, that falls out and Holly is left at square one again. Other pitfalls and problems arise in Holly's life, and she eventually decides to just leave it all behind and run away yet again. Much like she ran away from her husband in Texas, she is deciding to abandon her life in New York City to travel somewhere else. In the ending of the novel, she and the narrator go to the airport for her to leave, and while they are leaving, Holly is bringing with her all her worldly possessions that she can, but on the route to the airport, she realizes she doesn't want some of them, and she has the driver pull over. Now, the important thing that Holly no longer wishes to have with her is a cat that she found as a stray. And in a very, very heartfelt scene, she pushes the cat away and forces it to live on the street. About 2 blocks later, she regrets this decision, and she insists on going back and finding it, but to no avail, she cannot find it. The narrator promises Holly that he will go back and find the cat and make sure that it has a safe home and someone to care for and look for it. But unfortunately, he never finds the cat, and after dropping Holly off at the airport, he never sees her again. The final part of the book ends with the narrator wandering around a neighborhood in New York City where, sure enough, he sees the cat lounging in a windowsill, enjoying the sunshine and all the comforts that a family can offer. So that's the book, Breakfast at Tiffany's. It's a lot different than the film version. Truman Capote, he is no stranger to having his work adapted, but this book and the film version are drastically different, and unfortunately, because of that, the book does not get as much credit as it probably should. The film version changes some aspects about Holly Golightly, such as she's no longer a blonde, and she gets a happily ever after. Unfortunately, in the story that Capote wrote, there is no happy ever after. When this book was first written in the 40s and then published in the 50s, Truman Capote faced lots and lots of backlash from publication houses because of how controversial the topic was of, well, a 19-year-old sleeping around in New York City and navigating, the cafe scene, but mostly it's the nightclub scene. So because of that controversy, many publishing houses did not want to pick it up, and unfortunately, because of that, not many people were able to receive this book, and it didn't reach a wider audience. However, because of the movie and Audrey Hepburn's wonderful performance, the book kind of lives on by association in the movie's legacy. But we're not talking about the movie today, we're talking about the book, and I think it's time for us to analyze the book. Two literary elements that are very important in the book Breakfast at Tiffany's is the character of Holly Golightly being ironic, and also the theme of finding a place of belonging and a place that you can call your own. Starting with the irony of it, Holly Golightly is a 19-year-old girl who is running away from her responsibility of being a wife in Texas. Now, there is a certain commentary to be made about this of a younger woman marrying an older man, but the theme of her running away is consistent throughout the book, so we'll stick with that. The irony of this is the entire novel, Holly wants to find a place to belong and be at peace in. Unfortunately, she doesn't want to be attached to anything, and it's pretty difficult to find a place that you belong while you are removing yourself from that situation. So Holly wanting to find a place that she can belong is a little difficult. And the irony is not lost because throughout the novel, these are shown in symbols such as the St. Christopher medal. By the narrator giving her the St. Christopher medal, that is similar to someone giving you a pair of shoes for your birthday. It's a sign that you should walk away from them. And of course, Holly does take that advice to eventually go on adventures of her own, never settling down, and unfortunately being left with this feeling of not belonging and isolation, which is another important part of the book. The penultimate reason why this book is called Breakfast at Tiffany's is because Holly wants to find the stability for her life, and what is more stable than Tiffany & Co., a perfect boutique that sells perfectly aligned jewelry, and that not only is a symbol of upper class, but it's a symbol of stability. You don't see many people that are mentally unwell buying Tiffany's, and you certainly don't see many people financially unwell buying Tiffany's. So Holly yearns for that sort of stability and that sort of safety. And unfortunately, in this book, she does not receive that. The book ends with Holly running away yet again from her responsibility, and her, well, probably being worse for it. The cat, on the other hand, it did find a place of safety and love and family and belonging. And the book ends with the narrator saying that he wishes Holly had the same thing. Like I said, the book version and the film version are drastically different. The film ends on a much more happier, upbeat, and when I first saw the movie, I was thinking, that's not how it should have ended. It should have ended with her not finding happiness, her not finding a place to belong. And unfortunately, the reason I thought that is because of the book version. So, as much as a bummer as that is, this is a fantastic book. I'm not trying to make recommendations for many people, but if you are high school aged and female, you need to read this book. This is a book about identity and discovering who you are and what makes you happy. And that is something that many, many high schoolers need. And if you're a guy out there, you should also give it a read because this is truly a fantastic book. It's 90 pages long. You can pick it up at your local library, and it's a wonderful book. So that's the book Breakfast at Tiffany's. If you've read this book, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. If you've seen the movie, also let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Be sure to come back next week when I talk about something else that's neat. Or come back next time when I do another book review. Until then, take it easy and happy reading.